Hey guys, this is Mike Pearl from the Digital Transformation Project team, and I wanted to shoot a quick video to help people get caught up if they've never seen the VMS before and they're about to go watch something about the VMS Phase 2 or be a part of VMS Phase 2, or even if you've been around for all the Phase 1 activities like event management and volunteer management. I recommend watching this video. Should be pretty quick. I just want to make sure that you are aware of a lot of changes that are coming up. So that as you start participating with Phase 2, you're not caught off guard or you're not spending too much time with a new tool. So the first thing we want to talk about is that all the VMS Phase 2 stuff at this point is in our development environment, and Team Rubicon actually has 4 different environments. The one that most people are used to is the production environment, so it's got a black bar across the top, and we are typically using it for events, contacts, and things like that. Normally, if we give people the URL, we tell them to go to vms.teamrubiconusa.org. And actually, when you go there, it expands out to this other one, tr.crm.dynamics, etc. And so the way that you get to the development environment, the easiest way is to just go to the normal one and then put in a -dev inside of the URL. And then that will send you over to dev. And in dev, you can tell that you're there because now it's green instead of black. And it's just a way to know that we're in a different environment. Don't worry that it's green, that's fine. Don't worry about the data that's in here. It's pretty bad. Like, most of the events were uploaded early on. Most of the contacts or volunteers were uploaded early on, and a lot of the fields weren't quite right. So don't let that throw you. Don't worry about it. It's actually the same thing in the background. It's just the data over here is not reliable compared to production. And for the VMS Phase 2, we're actually going a step further, where this is the classic interface. Like, basically for an event, you've got one big long form. We're actually moving to something called a unified interface. And the way that we do that is you hit this drop down here where it says switch to another app, and you go into the one that says MOB and operations. So this is only in the dev environment. You click MOB and ops, and then you're going to be faced with the unified interface instead. And so the primary difference when you're looking at it is over here, most of your navigational elements are across the top of the page. So you have your primary menus that you can click around in. You've got your search feature up here. This shows you all the stuff that you've looked at recently. And in the unified interface, it's all still there. It's the same stuff. It's just on the left-hand side instead. And the cool part is, like, instead of one big long form like this, it breaks it down, and so you have the different tabs go across the side. And most people that see this, they actually like it a lot better. It gives us more room to put in bigger blocks of text, and we're just not scrolling forever and ever and ever. So most people, including myself, like, it took me a little bit to get used to it, but now that I'm used to it, I actually like it a lot more. And it's the same database behind the scenes. And so anything that we've done up to this point is going to be in here in the unified interface. So for example, this particular event, if I refresh the page over here, we should see that same event description. The other benefit about the unified interface is that it is device agnostic, and so it doesn't matter whether you're on an iPad or a Chromebook or a laptop or a Mac or a PC or whatever. It's going to look and feel the same, versus the problem we have right now with the classic is that you have to go fix things in multiple places. And so that's why there's been a lot of people that are on a Chromebook, for example, that are not having a fun time because a lot of the fields don't work as well or the same way. So that piece will be fixed. And really, we're being forced to move to the unified interface. Every Microsoft customer is being forced to move to the unified interface because it's where they're fixing all the bugs. So there's been a few bugs that we've identified that we can't actually fix in the classic environment that are already fixed in the unified interface. So another reason why we want to go forward with it. But it is going to change what people see. So hopefully you guys can help get everybody used to that. We have these things called entities. So on the left-hand side, these are all different entities. And an entity is simply a collection of forms and fields and information that are grouped together. So like contacts, for example, is all our volunteers. Accounts can be like the various cities and corporations that we work with. So for example, we have one in here like City of Denver is an account, and then if we're talking to their public works person or emergency manager or whatever, they would be a contact under that account. So we're starting to nest those things a little bit more than normal. We still have dashboards, we still have activities in here. So this should look pretty much similar. We still have the ability to look at all of our recent items by going to the menu here instead. We can still do searches up at the top. So if I want to find a volunteer or an event or something, I can just use this upper search bar and go right into it. When you click into these records, they should look pretty similar, but they're going to be the new unified interface, and so we'll see like the tabs go across the top here for the contacts as well, which is good, but it's all the same stuff. External documents is a newer entity that we're playing with. It's going to be where we're allowing people to upload different documents instead of having to use Cornerstone. So you'll see that in dev where it's not currently in production. TR qualifications is the same. Here's external documents. All right, so here's some new stuff. So if you are a Phase 1 user, this will be some new information for you. So some new entities that we're using as part of mobilization and operations, we're going to start with hazards. So a hazard is the high-level event or incident that has occurred. So for example, Hurricane Michael was the hazard that spawned 2 different operations for Team Rubicon. Operations for us are called projects inside of Dynamics, and that's simply because we're using a module called Project Service Automation, and so it treats it like a project where you request specific resources, you book those resources against the project, and then for us that's the same as basically like adding someone to a strike team. So you can have multiple projects underneath each hazard, and then for us events is the same thing, where in production an event would be like a social or a service project, or anything that you're used to here. In Phase 2, we also extend that to say that the event could be the recon part of an operation, or the admon part of an operation, or even the execution of the operation itself. To us, that's an event. And so you'll see multiple events inside of what could be multiple projects inside of a single hazard, typically. So that's probably how it's going to nest. The other thing that we can use Phase 2 stuff for is for the more complex events. So let's say like a train the trainer or an assist class or something like that, something that requires flight operations and mobilization of people that we don't really do at the moment inside of Phase 1. We'll be able to use some of the new features that we've built to be able to track that kind of stuff. So when I say events, it could be either of those 2 things. We also have a bunch of new stuff for mobilization. So there's something called a schedule board that probably won't load right now, because usually you need to open it from within an operation. But the schedule board allows us to basically create something called an audience and send them an email to say, hey, are you available? They come back and say, yes, I'm available for these particular waves. And then we can use the schedule board to actually map that out. So we can see pretty much ahead of time when we can schedule who, and that way we know how many resources we'll have for that operation. The audience builder is what I just mentioned. So we can use it to build a list of email addresses to send out for different reasons. So development's going to use it to talk to donors in affected areas or near affected areas. Operations and mobilization is going to use it to send out like availability notices, that kind of thing. So it's just another audience in this case. And we'll be able to put in things like show me everybody within 0 to 450 miles, and then run a report and be able to send that email, or within 0 hours to 5 hours away, and then we can basically build a list to be able to send that. So that'll be cool. Personnel deployments, we are going to be able to track pretty much everything on an operation going forward, and a personnel deployment is going to be like this person went to this particular operation between this date and this date, and their primary role was this. Here's all the different related stuff, right? And all this information will go back into their contact record, and so people will be able to see like what everyone did throughout the course of the year. Resources I won't get into too much information on yet, and don't worry about these views. These are all going to be updated to be a little bit more informative for us. But resources are basically like, for this operation, we need 20 Sawyers and 3 RCIs and 1 incident commander. So those are all resource requests that we fill with the people from their bookings and their deployments. The flight information is what you'd expect, where we're tracking inbound and outbound flights. And then the bookable resource bookings, this is basically a daily record of what everyone did on an op. So like I said, we're going to be able to get very granular. In this case, like Francis went on a flight wave from 7-1 to 7-5. And if we were to drill down into this record, we'll see things like what role they were, what strike team they were on, which operational period. Don't worry about the data. Like I said, the data is bad here. So all these things will be very granular, and we'll be able to pull a lot of information and stats and be able to show people exactly what their impact was per year. So that'll be fun. So that's about it for this view, or for this tour. I would recommend, if you're seeing this video, you probably have access to the dev environment. So go over to dev, click around, see what you see, and take a look at the projects, especially because this is going to be a big piece of what we're doing in VMS Phase 2. So feel free to click around inside these projects, and I'll show you the layout here real quick. So the first few tabs across the top are for mission planning. So as you kind of click through here, anything that you would expect to see on an ISR, you should see on the form. Same with Recon, Morno, Advon, Opboard. So lots of fields to fill out. Rather than doing the Word doc, we basically fill this out, and then we just download a Word doc. It's going to create it dynamically on the fly. So lots of cool new features that we built in. Resource requirements through personnel. This is all mobilization stuff in line with the audience builder and flight stuff over here. And then from strike team alignments to strike teams, this is all like operational, where are we putting everybody? So kind of like a helper to be able to fill out the 204s. And then in future versions, we'll actually automate the 204s, where you fill out the strike team alignment and then just kick out a 204 from a template. So we're still working on that. It's not going to be ready for the first release of Phase 2 though. The related menu has all kinds of stuff related to, in this case, the project, but anywhere you are, you'll have a related menu, and that way you can look to see what's related to the record that you're looking at. So pretty handy stuff there as well. If you want more information on the volunteer management system resources, you're going to want to go to tiny.cc/dxwiki, and it will auto expand into a specific web page that's currently in our SharePoint. And basically it's a one-stop shop for all the documentation that we've created so far for the volunteer management system. And it's also an easy way to get to the SharePoint information as well, trying to put everything in one place for all the digital transformation projects. So in here, if you click around, there's lots of different resources for the different types of things that are in the VMS. All of our videos are linked from here as well. But if you want to be able to get to just the videos, you should be able to go to tiny.cc/dxvideos, and that way you can fall asleep talking to yours truly. And it has all of our VMS related videos in order, so that if you really want to nerd out with this stuff, you can get a really good idea of how everything is designed. And as we come out with the VMS Phase 2 stuff, it'll show up in these playlists as well. We'll probably break it out a little bit, Phase 1 versus Phase 2, etc. So that's it for this overview. Hopefully, when you first see the VMS Phase 2 stuff, you'll be a little bit more familiar with it after watching this. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, or complaints, and we can. Hopefully I can fill in some gaps for you, so that when you're looking at the new material for Phase 2, you can focus on the new information rather than having to worry too much about the changes in the tool itself. Thanks a lot.